I lost my legs saving Shiniji. In the 3 years of our marriage, he let his friends and family insult me. When I confronted him, he impatiently pressed his temples and said, "They're just stating the facts." Back then, I didn't ask you to save me. No one asked if I was willing. All the admiration I had for him in my youth turned to ashes in that moment. That night, I mixed sleeping pills into his milk and, while he was fast asleep, cut off his legs. I held him as he screamed in agony and fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 3 years ago, before the accident happened. Still, usage is something else, sticking with a cripple for 3 years. Bro. You don't get it. Maybe Iji has some special kinks, and that cripple in bed. Heh. If you ask me, Jiang he is too scheming, using one leg to trap Iji for life. Laughter echoed from the private room in the hotel. I stood outside, clenching my fists. When the laughter finally died down, Shiniji's deep voice rang out, "That's enough." Someone pretended to be surprised. "No way, don't tell me you've actually fallen for that cripple." After a long silence, I heard those words, "How could that be?" What I mean is, I don't have any special kinks. Being stuck with a cripple every day is annoying. If it weren't for 3 years ago. "Sister-in-law, why are you here?" The door to the private room opened, and everyone's gaze fell on mimicking, sympathetic, but not a trace of surprise. Shiniji had a moment of panic and guilt. He strode toward me, his tone full of reproach. "Don't you know your own condition? What are you doing here?" I sat in my wheelchair, meeting his eyes, and silently raised my phone. "You told me to come an hour ago." Shiniji sent me a text saying he was too drunk and wanted me to pick him up. Shiniji pushed me into the private room, closing his eyes with a sigh. "Are you happy now?" The man who had just mocked me raised his hand with a laugh. "Sorry, sister-in-law, we were just joking. Wanted to see how much you care about Iji." He said the text was sent using Shiniji's phone, just to prove how much I loved him. These people made no effort to hide the contempt in their tone. I looked blankly at Shiniji, as if he had known all along. "I didn't know you would actually come." He read my thoughts and pressed his brow helplessly. "And you, think about it. Even if I drank too much, there are designated drivers, friends, anyone could take me home. What could you do by coming?" He followed my gaze to his own legs. "What could I do? Probably rush out in a panic, wheeling my wheelchair after receiving the text, and then have to trouble the driver to carry me into the car." Thinking back now, I was really foolish. Eagerly making myself a laughingstock in their eyes. Since there's nothing wrong, I'll head back first. I lowered my head and wheeled my chair away, but someone stretched out a foot to block my path. "Sister Jiang, don't rush off. Since you're here, it's only right to have a drink." Someone handed me a glass of wine. "But I'm allergic to alcohol." I looked at Shiniji again, and he still chose to stay silent. Facing the room full of eyes watching the show, I silently took the glass. As expected of Jiang. Holy shit. He let out a startled cry as I splashed the wine in his face. "What the hell are you doing, you cripple?" I activated the electric mode of my wheelchair and mercilessly rolled over the foot blocking my way. Behind me, voices cursed me. But I turned a deaf ear and considerately closed the private room door for them. Shiniji caught up and immediately started scolding me. "Jiang, don't go too far. They're all my friends." He reached out to grab me, but I blocked him. "They're your friends. And I'm your wife. You know how to defend your friends, but you turn a blind eye when your wife is insulted." Shiniji pressed his lips together, a subconscious sign that he knew he was in the wrong but refused to admit it. Suddenly, I felt it was all pointless. I steered my wheelchair toward the main gate. Just as I reached the entrance, he caught up again. They were a bit out of line. But what they said was true. I didn't like the words Shiniji forced out. I rubbed my moist eyes hard, trying to keep my voice steady. let's get a divorce. Shinji froze on the spot, blurting out a refusal. No, I can't divorce you. I looked at him in confusion. Why? I had heard it with my own ears. She clearly said he didn't like me. In the past. I could fool myself into believing that even if his friends weren't willing to accept me, at least he loved me, and that was enough. Hearing those words today, I finally realized how ridiculous I was. The evening wind was chilly. Shinji took off his jacket and draped it over my legs. It's my fault. Those words just now were drunken nonsense. Don't believe them. Anyway, we're not getting divorced, okay? The minty scent of Shinji enveloped me, and I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. He pushed my wheelchair through the bustling street. I'm taking you home. He pushed me slowly along the night street. He seemed lost in thought, so distracted that he didn't even notice a pothole ahead. I spoke up to warn him. After a brief apology, silence fell again. I parted my lips slightly. I hope you know, if you find this troublesome, if you don't love me, we can get a divorce. I've loved Shinji for 10 years, but that doesn't mean I'll cling to him. Shinji's voice carried a hint of displeasure. I told you, we're not getting divorced, Xiaohe. I closed my eyes and said nothing more. As memories from the past kept surfacing. 3 years ago, the moment the lab ceiling collapsed, I instinctively pushed Shinji out of the way. I saved him, but I was struck and lost consciousness. That day, I had originally planned to confess my feelings to him. To write an answer to my 7 years of secret love. When I woke up from the coma, the first thing I saw was Shinji's red-rimmed eyes. Jiang-he, do you have a death wish? Who told you to meddle? I opened my mouth to speak, only to find my throat terribly hoarse. I wanted to tell him it was okay, because I liked him, and it was also my way of repaying the Shen family's kindness. My parents had passed away when I was very young, and without the Shen family's help all these years, I feared I would have had a miserable life. I tried to get out of bed to pour myself a glass of water, only then realizing my legs had lost all sensation. Shinji's eyes showed even more guilt. He took my hand. From now on, I'll be your legs. Jiang-he. Let's get married. I admit that in that moment I was overwhelmed by happiness. Okay. Shinji, I've actually liked you for 7 years. Shinji held my hand tightly without saying a word, and I subconsciously ignored the trace of reluctance in his eyes. Waking up in the morning, Shinji had already left. On the nightstand was the milk he had warmed for me. The company has been busy lately, so don't wait for me for dinner. I took a sip of the milk. It was sweet. But I've never liked sweet milk. A clattering sound came from outside the door, followed by a loud shout, "Sister-in-law, good morning." It was Shinji's cousin. I let out a long sigh, thinking to myself, what a big trouble this is. Shen Yuyan affectionately wrapped her arm around mine, but her eyes were full of sarcasm. "Sister-in-law, you really know how to cause trouble for my brother." At yesterday's dinner party, there were several connections my brother needed to win over. Your outburst really screwed him over. What are you going to do about it, sister-in-law? I calmly looked at Shen Yuyan. You can tell Shinji to divorce me. After the rush of happiness faded, I could occasionally feel that helplessness in Shinji. He always kept a distant, indifferent attitude toward me. His friends weren't always like that toward me from the start. In fact, I understand they were just saying what Shinji couldn't say himself. So I've said it more than once, if it's because of the life-saving favor, there's no need for this. We can get a divorce. But he never agreed. Shen Yuyan sneered. You don't actually think my brother won't divorce you because he likes you, do you? She forcibly dragged me into the wheelchair. I struggled, but it was useless. What can a cripple do to resist? She whispered in my ear with a smirk. Come on, I'll take you to see a good show. The good show Shen Yuyan was referring to was Shinji on a romantic date with another girl. through the glass window of the couple's restaurant. I saw with my own eyes Shinji tucking a stray strand of hair behind another girl's ear. The affection in his eyes was almost overflowing. Shin Yuyen pursed her lips and said, "See that? That's the person my brother truly likes." I didn't understand. Then why doesn't he divorce me? It wasn't me who was clinging to him. Shen Yuyen said indignantly, "Isn't it because you took it upon yourself to use the life-saving favor to blackmail my brother? If he divorces you, what would he become? An ungrateful person. Don't pretend to be magnanimous. Wasn't this all your calculation? I don't understand why everyone thinks I saved Shinichi out of ulterior motives. I only lost my legs, but he lost his freedom." The people inside were too absorbed to notice me not far from the window. I smiled, wheeled my chair closer, and gently tapped on the glass. Shen Yuyen didn't expect me to do that, and her face stiffened. "What are you doing?" How ridiculous, she was the one who brought me here. Yet she only wanted me to watch and wallow in sorrow. She couldn't stop me in time. The two inside had already noticed us. Shock, panic. Shinichi quickly appeared before me. "Jiang He, let me explain." He didn't know what to say and shot a reproachful look at Shen Yuyen. "Who told you to bring her here?" Shen Yuyen pouted unhappily. "I just feel sorry for my real sister-in-law. Clearly, you two have been in love for years." I stood frozen in place. In love for years, but back when I wanted to confess my feelings. I had subtly asked Shinichi if he had a girlfriend. His answer was otherwise. I wouldn't have mustered the courage. "Jiang He, go home first." Shinichi scolded Shen Yuyen, then called a car for me. "Wait." I raised my hand to stop him. "I want to talk to the young lady inside." "Jiang He." Shinichi frowned. Displeased. I gently took his hand. "You'd better listen to me. Otherwise." "I don't mind shouting," caught the mistress right here on the street. "I'm disabled. I've grown used to strange looks over the years. I'm immune. The only ones who'll be embarrassed are you." Shen Yiji's frown deepened. But he must have cared deeply about the person inside. The next moment, he pushed me into the restaurant. "Yiji, is this your wife, the one who saved you back then?" The girl seemed to know who I was. She rested her chin on her hand and smiled at me. "Hello. I'm Lin Sui Sui. Yiji's first love." She was just like those people, pretending to have no ill will toward me, yet every word was laced with malice. "Yiji, why don't you take your cousin to sit over there? I'd like to have a word with Miss Jiang." With just a few words, she took control. Shinichi led Shen Yuyen to a nearby seat, casting a worried glance in my direction. "Miss Jiang." Lin Sui Sui leisurely stirred the coffee in front of her. "You know, if it weren't for you, I would have been the one marrying Yiji." "I don't know that." I told her. "I've never seen you in his circle before. I had no idea he had a first love." Lin Sui Sui looked up, her eyes tinged with resentment. "We were in a secret relationship. Because of my family." Yiji said his family would never approve. Only Yuyen silently supported us. We dated in secret for 2 whole years. Before the accident happened, we were ready to come clean to our families. Unfortunately, you swooped in and took it all away. No wonder Shen Yuyen hated me so much when she found out I was going to marry Shinichi. But can I really be blamed for this? I asked him more than once whether he had a girlfriend. He chose to hide it himself, and after the earthquake, he chose to marry me on his own. Lin Sui Sui seemed to read my thoughts and let out a light laugh. "Are you curious why he insisted on marrying you?" I looked up at her, and my intuition told me the answer wouldn't be good. "Because he found your secret crush diary." "Jiang He." Lin Sui Sui said this with resentment in her voice. "He didn't find it earlier or later, but just after you lost your legs and fell into a coma. He found it right in front of the Shen family elders. Are you still going to say you didn't do it on purpose, Miss Jiang? My mind went blank. So he had read my diary. Shen Yizhi originally wanted to pretend he hadn't seen it, but Aunt Shen caught a glimpse of it first. The elders meant well. I had grown up under their watch. And the Shen and Jiang families had been old friends for years. So that day, Aunt Shen asked him, "Do you like Jiang He?" She thought that if both parties had feelings, they could be together. And it wouldn't be a bad thing. Little did she expect Shen Yizhi to take it as pressure from the elders. I will marry her. Under what he perceived as pressure. He gave up Lin Sui and married me. I see. Thinking back to how I excitedly bared my soul after learning that Shen Yizhi was going to marry me, it was nothing short of a joke. He could divorce me now. But he hasn't. That's what I don't understand. Lin Sui flashed a mocking smile. Because you're useful. Yizhi is at a critical point in his career. If people find out he abandoned his own savior, what would they think, Miss Jiang? You've already put him in a difficult position once. Don't make it hard for him a second time. Alright, with all your scheming, who knows if losing both your parents isn't just karma. Ah. I couldn't hold back and splashed the coffee from in front of her onto her face. She could say anything, but she had no right to mention my deceased parents. Jiang He, what are you doing? Shen Yizhi quickly shielded Lin Sui in front of him. I pointed at her. She insulted my parents. Lin Sui looked disheveled, tears welling up in her eyes. I was just explaining our past to her. It was her. Shen Yizhi glared at me with fury. Apologize. I stared at them for a long moment, then smiled. Fine. Before I apologize. Can I say something to you? Shen Yizhi didn't speak, which meant he agreed. Come closer, I'll only tell you this. He walked over and bent down slightly. Slap. I slapped him with all my strength. Let's get a divorce. Shen Yizhi's face turned completely dark. Jiang He, I told you. We can't divorce. We can't divorce. He's so concerned about his own face and reputation. But this time I wasn't willing to accommodate him at my own expense, then wait for the lawsuit. I turned my wheelchair to leave, but was yanked out of it by a strong force. I was thrown to the ground. Shen Yizhi's eyes bloodshot. Divorce? Look at you, a cripple who would want you without me? I looked at him in disbelief, unable to believe those words came from him. Was I born a cripple? Shen Yizhi grew angry. Yes, you saved me. You're my great benefactor. For heaven's sake, did I beg you to save me? Did anyone ask if I was willing? I'd rather be the one crippled. Do you know how much pressure this guilt has brought me? Do you know how much I've lost because of this debt of gratitude? He vented about the stress of owing me half a life. I wish you had never saved me. I stared at him blankly as a faint, sour smell wafted out. Overwhelmed with humiliation, I lost control of my bladder. Seeing this, Shen Yizhi quickly lifted me back into the wheelchair. Take a good look at yourself. What can you do without me now? He looked at me with disgust, draping his coat over me. I'll send you back. Calm down and think things through. Shen Yizhi hailed a cab for me. The driver was a plump, middle-aged woman. He had given her extra instructions and a small tip to push me back home after we arrived. Perhaps sensing my low spirits, she gave me an encouraging thumbs up before leaving. Sister. There's still hope in life. She was probably worried I might try to kill myself. I wouldn't. Because just half an hour ago, I received a text from a stranger. It was a screenshot of a chat. Brother Shen. It seems your wife is dead set on divorcing you. Looks like the devoted husband persona you were going for with CEO Gu is off the table. But no worries, if one path is blocked, we can take another. Remember the CEO Chi I mentioned to you before? He has a thing for disabled people. Isn't Jiang He just perfect? Since she's divorcing you anyway, you can use this chance to catch her in the act and accuse her of cheating. That way, you won't have to bear the shame of abandoning your savior. Tomorrow night at 9. Don't say I didn't give you the opportunity, brother. The man said a lot, but Shinichi's reply of okay left me utterly devastated. How ruthless, blaming me for saving him, putting pressure on me. And even squeezing out my last bit of value to pave the way for him. I don't know who sent me this text, but whoever it was, I have to thank them. Xiao, I'm back. Shinichi returned, drunk and unsteady. He staggered over to me and crouched down. I'm sorry. I was a jerk earlier. Let's not get divorced, okay? I looked at him calmly and gave a gentle smile. Okay. Really? I nodded and handed him a glass of warm milk. I was partly at fault for what happened today too. Drink this milk to sober up. I booked tickets to the Maldives for tomorrow. How about we go on a trip together? Shinichi was first flustered, then confused. Tomorrow. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Okay. I smiled and handed him the milk, watching him drink it. The drug took effect quickly, and Shinichi collapsed unconscious just as I expected. It's true that when someone can't walk, it's a real hassle. It took me a full 2 hours to cut off Shinichi's legs. In the middle of it, he woke up, and his frantic screams forced me to stop and stuff a towel in his mouth. He shook his head wildly. I quickly soothed him. It's okay. I'm not going to kill you. I just need your 2 legs. Since you don't value them anyway, you might as well give them back to me. He let out muffled sounds, probably begging for mercy. I pressed the chat record against his face, and he finally fell silent. Left with nothing but pain and despair. As dawn broke, I finally managed to chop off those 2 legs, the blade now dull. Shinichi had drifted in and out of consciousness several times. After I finished, I removed the towel from his mouth. And he was barely breathing. Jiang. Forget it, I shoved it back in. I couldn't be bothered to listen. I realized it too late. My life was already ruined the moment I lost my legs. Since he wanted to destroy me completely, I had no choice but to destroy him first. I lit the charcoal in the room and held his whimpering body as we fell asleep. It was finite, the moment of realization. I took a beast in human form out of this world. I never expected to open my eyes again. The numbness in my legs made me stare wide-eyed in shock. I had been reborn before the accident happened. I shot up instantly, startling everyone else in the lab. Junior, are you okay? I stared at my legs and gave a few perfunctory replies. I had returned to my second year of graduate school. Back then, to get closer to Shinichi. I chose the same major as him and even managed to get into the same research group. But that accident had made me drop out. Feeling the strength in my legs, I trembled with excitement. It was May 8th, 1:27 p.m. 10 minutes before the ceiling panel would loosen and fall. Back then, to save Shinichi, I had risked my life to push him aside, only to be crushed beneath the ceiling myself. Jiang, what's wrong? A large hand touched my forehead. It was Shinichi. Are you running a fever? Do you need me to ask for leave for you? I instinctively avoided his hand. And a hint of hurt flickered in his eyes. You. The strange tension between us caught the attention of others. Oh, are the young couple having a quarrel? I used to always chase after Shinichi, and he neither accepted nor rejected me, so everyone jokingly called us a young couple. No, he has a girlfriend. I have nothing to do with him, I quickly denied. In this life, even being associated with Shinichi felt unlucky. Seeing me refuse so quickly and mention his secret girlfriend, Shinichi was momentarily stunned. He lowered his voice. Jiang, is there some misunderstanding between us? I looked at him and suddenly understood what was strange about our relationship. At this moment, Shinichi had a girlfriend, yet he still kept things ambiguous with me. Even now that I had called him out on it, he refused to admit it. Was he trying to have an exciting romance while not wanting to give up the good treatment I gave him? it turned out the person I once liked was rotten from the start. Watch out! A shout snapped me out of my thoughts. The ceiling began to fall. Just like in my past life, with Shinji standing right in the center of it. I was merely at the edge of the collapsing ceiling. In my past life, I had pushed Shinji away without caring about myself. In this life, I quickly ran away from the danger zone. Xiaohe. Shinji called out to me in disbelief. The next second, the ceiling came crashing down. After a startled cry, Shinji passed out. Out of a sense of morality, I still dialed 120 for him. The doctor said Shinji's legs were ruined. And he would have to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I barely held back from laughing out loud. Jianghe, why? Why didn't you save me? Shinji woke up, his voice hoarse and tearful. As if I were the heartless one. You could have pushed me out of the way. I tilted my head. Shinji, stop pretending. I know you've come back too. Before our marriage, Shinji had never called me Xiaohe, and just now, he asked why I didn't save him. Exposed. Shinji's face flushed red. He had wanted to seize the moral high ground and make me feel guilty. I sat down beside him and gently patted his leg. Shinji, your legs are ruined. Do you still remember what you said to me in your past life? Did I beg you to save me? Did anyone ask if I was willing? I would rather be the one who ended up crippled. I laughed as I looked at him. Aren't you unwilling? Now congratulations, you've gotten what you wanted. You no longer have to feel guilty because of me. You've only lost your legs now, but you can stand tall and clear, without forcing yourself to bear unnecessary responsibilities. Shinji froze on the spot, his face shifting colors like an overturned palette. Jianghe. I never realized you were such a lunatic before. Can't you tell the difference between words spoken in anger? His expression overlapped with the one from his past life, when he brazenly claimed he didn't need me to save him. If I saved him, he blamed me. If I didn't save him, he still blamed me. My anger flared up, and I reached out and slapped him. Knowing I'm a lunatic, you still dare to talk back to me? Do you want to get your legs chopped off again? Hearing my words, Shinji suddenly shuddered. Too many things had happened one after another, had almost forgotten how miserably he died in his past life. I must have lost my mind. I've always hated women like you anyway. It's better that we don't have to be forcibly bound together in this life. He was trying hard to save face. 10 minutes later, Aunt Shen arrived in a flurry. Iji, Uncle Shen was away on a business trip and couldn't come back, leaving her, a poor mother, to bear this devastating news alone. Auntie. Please don't be too upset. At least he's alive. That's what matters. I offered a perfunctory consolation to Aunt Shen. In my past life, she wasn't unkind to me, but she wasn't particularly good to me either. Before I married Shinji, she genuinely treated me like a daughter. After the wedding, she did feel genuine sympathy for me, but that sympathy couldn't withstand the passage of time or the constant sighs of her own son. So, when Shinji's cousin bullied me, she chose to look the other way. Jianghe. Watch your boundaries. Shinji sounded anxious. He didn't want Aunt Shen to worry, but in his current state, he couldn't even turn over on his own. Xiaohe. His father and I are busy. Thank you for coming to take care of Iji. Aunt Shen sobbed as she grabbed my hand. I know you have feelings for Iji. Given the situation now. She broke down crying again. I understood what she meant. She was worried that no one would want Shinji. Just as she had worried about me back then. I spoke without any hesitation. Auntie, I only see Shinji as a brother. Besides, Shinji already has a girlfriend. Aunt Shen looked at Shinji in disbelief. Is what Xiaohe said true? Shinji pressed his lips tightly together. He hadn't wanted to reveal this so soon, but now I had forced his hand. I helpfully added, I've already called her to come. I don't want to be the third person breaking up a relationship. I hope you understand. As soon as the words were spoken, Lin Suisui, dressed in white, appeared at the door. Her reaction was similar to Aunt Shen's shock and tears. Aunt Shen had met Lin Suisui before and didn't particularly like her, because her family had 2 older sisters and a younger broth-era family that, in her eyes, wasn't good enough for her son. But given the current situation, Aunt Shen couldn't say much and could only make an excuse to leave and buy food. E.g. the little white flower with red-rimmed eyes was especially pitiable, but Sheniji avoided her gaze. Jiang-he, you shouldn't have called her here. In this state, how could I? He couldn't finish his sentence. A pale yellow liquid spread across the bedsheet. Lin Suisui instinctively stepped back 2 paces, a hint of disgust in her eyes. Sheniji caught this scene, and his pride was wounded. Jiang-he. He looked at me with pleading eyes. I remained unmoved. What? You don't expect me to handle this, do you? Your girlfriend is right, he raised that appropriate. After finishing my tirade against Sheniji, I turned to Lin Suisui and said, Miss Lin, I've heard a little about your love story. Since you love each other so deeply, I assume you plan to be together for a lifetime. In that case, you should start learning how to take care of a disabled person now. Under my urging and moral coercion, Lin Suisui struggled to help Sheniji to his feet. The bathroom door slammed shut, and I didn't miss the look of resentment on Lin Suisui's face. I smiled. Back when misfortune struck me, they could indulge in their noble, unattainable love. But if the roles were reversed, would they still be so steadfast under the weight of life's pressures? After exchanging a few brief words with Aunt Shen, I left. Sheniji had his mother and his girlfriend, so naturally, there was no need for me, an outsider, to get in the way. I went on with my life as usual. Attended classes as usual, and could walk and run freely. The long-lost sense of freedom intoxicated me. I heard that Sheniji refused to give up and did rehabilitation training every day, but unfortunately, there was no improvement. Aunt Shen contacted me every now and then, hinting at her dissatisfaction with Lin Suisui. It was always about how she couldn't take care of Sheniji as attentively as I could. Sheniji also wanted to reach out to me, but I had blocked all his contact methods. It wasn't until 3 months later, when I was having dinner with my lab mates, that I happened to run into Sheniji and his group. Lin Suisui was pushing Sheniji toward us, both of them looking grim. Lin Suisui was busy scolding Sheniji and didn't notice me. What are you, a cripple, doing here? Aren't you embarrassed? This disdainful tone was a stark contrast to her previous gentle demeanor. It's no wonder Lin Suisui was furious. I had secretly looked into it. Sheniji's so-called romantic love was nothing more than Lin Suisui's long-planned scheme. Lin Suisui came from a poor family, and she hoped to find a man with money but low intelligence to change her fate. Sheniji appeared at just the right time, but unfortunately, in my past life, I got in the way. As for this life, the humiliated Sheniji's face turned red. If I didn't come, how would I know what you and your friends say about me? Lin Suisui sneered. Calling you a cripple, a useless man, are they wrong? Look at yourself, you can't even go to the bathroom without my help. What else can you do, if it weren't for escaping that family? Who would want to be with a cripple like you? Sheniji trembled all over. You. What did you say? Lin Suisui ignored his murderous glare. If I had known taking care of a cripple would be this much trouble, I would have picked a different target. Sheniji roared, divorce. Before the wedding happens. So they had already gotten their marriage certificate. It seemed Aunt Shen knew about her son's condition and no longer allowed him to be too picky. Lin Suisui didn't hold back and punched him twice. Divorce? Do you think I don't want to? After 3 months of taking care of you, I'm about to throw up. If it weren't for your damn mother, do you think I'd be willing to marry you? The little white flower, once she took off her mask. turned out to be this kind of devouring beast. But someone like her is a perfect match for Shinji. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, and the two of them finally noticed me. When Lin Suisui saw me coming, she quickly shook off Shinji like a hot potato. Perfect timing. Take your brother away. Back then, when Shinji and Lin Suisui were secretly dating, he always told her I was his sister. Lin Suisui cast a cold glance at Shinji. I'm going back to the party. Don't cause me any more trouble. She walked away without looking back, leaving me and Shinji staring at each other. What he was going through now was exactly what I had experienced back then. Shinji, do you still remember what your friends said about me back then? Shinji turned his head away, his body trembling almost imperceptibly. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I cut him off. You knew everything. It's just that when it doesn't happen to you, you don't care. Alright, don't be upset. If you ask me, Lin Suisui has been pretty good to you. She only scolded you a couple of times. She didn't hand you over to some old man with weird fetishes, did she? I was trying to comfort him out of kindness, but I didn't expect his face to grow paler and paler. No. Xiao He, listen to me. I never meant to actually hurt you. I had it all planned out. I arranged for the room to be filled with incense beforehand, so he would pass out before he could lay a hand on you. The next day, I would just pretend. He explained excitedly until he met my icy, piercing gaze. Actually, by then, I was already starting to fall for you. Slap, I hit him with all my strength. Feeling that one slap wasn't enough, I struck him several more times. Jiang He, Shinji was shocked and furious, but in his current state, he couldn't fight back. I suppressed my anger. How dare you mention love? Sending me to another man is love, letting your friends humiliate me is love, playing both sides is love. You don't love me. Oh, realize that after becoming disabled, your first love no longer loved you. What you want is just someone who will devote herself to you completely. A selfish person like you deserves to talk about love. After that day, Shinji never came looking for me again. My life became more and more carefree. Occasionally, someone would mention Shinji to me, saying how badly he was doing. I heard that Lin Suisui treated him decently in front of Aunt Shen, but behind her back, she would beat and scold him. I don't know what got into Shen Yizi being bullied like that. He didn't utter a single word. I figured he must truly love Lin Suisui. Shen Yuyen called me a few times, always treating me like a close confidant. That Lin Suisui, I used to think she was kind and gentle, but I never expected her heart to be so dark. Sister Jiang He, if only you had married my cousin. I smiled. Don't talk nonsense. Shinji and I are siblings. Shen Yuyen pouted on the other end of the phone. We're not blood-related siblings anyway. Aunt only raised you for a few years, and you weren't even registered in the household registry. Sister Jiang He, why don't you just crash the wedding? It's on the 10th of next month. Hearing her say that, my eyelids twitched. In a daze, I recalled that before Shinji and I got married, Shen Yuyen didn't actually harbor such malice toward me. After I married Shinji, she suddenly changed like a different person, growing closer and closer to Lin Suisui instead. Now that Lin Suisui is the one marrying Shinji. Could it be? I asked casually, as if unintentionally, Yuyen, you don't happen to like. Before I could finish, she frantically denied it over the phone. How could that be? How could I possibly like my cousin? After a long silence, Shen Yuyen stammered, all right. Maybe a little. But he's my blood cousin, so it's definitely impossible. That's why I want to find a good sister-in-law for him. Sister Jiang He, won't you really consider my brother? I laughed and brushed it off, secretly saving the recording. I'll be there. Shen Yuyen let out an excited cheer. A month later, I showed up at the wedding venue. When I arrived, Shinji was being pushed out by Lin Suisui to greet the guests. Shiniji, probably feeling humiliated, gritted his teeth. Do you really have to drag me along? Lin Suisui slapped the back of his head. Say one more word, and I'll tear your mouth apart. I hadn't expected their relationship to have deteriorated to this point. If they were still getting married. It was all thanks to Aunt Shin's determination to torment Lin Suisui. When Shiniji was still able-bodied, she would never have allowed someone from Lin Suisui's background to get close to her son. But now that Shiniji was disabled, families of equal standing naturally wouldn't marry their daughters to him. Aunt Shin had originally wanted me as her daughter-in-law, but a few months ago, Shiniji was dead set on being with Lin Suisui. So she had no face left to ask me to take him on. Didn't Lin Suisui's family love money? Aunt Shin simply gave them 300,000 yuan in one go to buy Lin Suisui. That family happily handed over Lin Suisui's household registry after taking the money. At first, Lin Suisui was willing to go through the motions of taking care of Shiniji for the money. But after being tricked into marriage, she realized she had been bought out by the Shin family, and Aunt Shin wouldn't give her a single cent more. Divorce? Don't even think about it. Wasn't it supposed to be a earth-shattering love? Then let them be locked together forever. Shiniji saw me. He looked at me from afar, his gaze falling on my legs. A hint of longing in his eyes. Aunt Shin never showed up. She was blatantly slapping Lin Suisui in the face. But what I didn't understand was, had the Shin family also given up on Shiniji? Shin Yuyan, sitting at the family table, spotted me and quietly flashed me an OK sign. This was the plan she had come up with to play the footage of the years of memories between Shiniji and me during the middle of the wedding ceremony. In her words, Shiniji still had feelings for me, and at that moment, he would surely regret it, even publicly call off the wedding. This way, not only could the wedding be ruined, but it would also humiliate Lin Suisui to the greatest extent. However, she conveniently left out the fact that it would also put me in an awkward position. Her scheme was too obvious, so I quietly made a few adjustments of my own. Oh, isn't this Shiniji's little sidekick? A familiar voice. I turned around and saw one of his buddies. The same one who had embarrassed me in front of Shiniji before. TSK, 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 look at that look in your eyes, still pining after a cripple, huh? You don't have some weird fetish, do you? His words were flippant, showing respect for neither me nor Shiniji. Zhou Hao. If you don't want to eat this meal, get the hell out. Shiniji appeared beside me at some point, scolding his former brother. Zhou Hao looked us over contemptuously. You still think you're someone important. I'm just pitying you because you're crippled. Let me tell you. Your father has already brought your 12-year-old brother home. The Shin family actually had an illegitimate child. I couldn't help but feel surprised. It seemed Shiniji had been abandoned by Uncle Shin, and as for Aunt Shin, forget it. Zhou Hao, get the hell out of here. Shiniji was on the verge of exploding with rage, but unfortunately, he couldn't get up to punch him. Zhou Hao, having been given the boot by Shiniji, instead sat down casually. Get out, Shiniji, what are you making a fuss about now? Lin Suisui came chasing after him and kicked Shiniji's crippled leg without restraint. Haven't I been embarrassed enough today? Lin Suisui continued to scold and hit Shiniji. Come on, sister-in-law, give brother Shin a little face outside. Zhou Hao laughed heartily. Besides, his old flame is here. As he spoke, he turned his gaze to me. I didn't want to stir up trouble right now, but Zhou Hao was too despicable, both in my past life and this one. I grabbed the red wine on the table and splashed it straight at him. Amid his shocked expression, I warned him, how you insult Shiniji is your business, but watch your mouth around me. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to tell the Shin family about the shady deals you've been pulling behind the scenes. For example, that boss Lin's preference. In my past life, Zhou Hao loved introducing all kinds of girls to those bosses with twisted hobbies. That boss Lin was the favor he arranged for Shiniji. When Zhou Hao heard me mention boss Lin, he instantly became as docile as a quail. Xiao he. Shinji choked up as he called out to me. I'm sorry. I really didn't know life after being crippled would be so. The sudden broadcast on the big screen interrupted Shinji's confession. I saw Shen Yuyan stand up excitedly. Sister Jianghe, why don't you go and crash the wedding? It's on the 10th of next month. Yuyan. You wouldn't like. How could I possibly like my cousin? Well, maybe a little. But he's my biological cousin, so it's definitely impossible. That's why I want to find a good sister-in-law for my cousin. There was no video playing on the screen. But the conversation between me and Shen Yuyan was clearly broadcast into everyone's ears. The already chaotic wedding became even more of a mess. Shen Yuyan screamed for the playback to be stopped, and Lin Suisui strode over and grabbed her, starting to beat her up. She was cursing and swearing, and several people couldn't hold her back. I clicked my tongue in amazement. Indeed. A girl raised in a rural family that favored sons over daughters could never be a delicate little white flower. Thinking back to our pleasant conversation in the restaurant, with its serene and carefree atmosphere, I only felt a sense of irony. Taking advantage of the chaos. I quietly slipped away from the scene, with Shinji calling out to me repeatedly. What happened afterward, I heard from others. After Shen Yuyan's shameful secret was exposed, her parents went to their elder brother and had a big argument. They believed that Shinji must have crossed some line to make Shen Yuyan develop such an inappropriate affection. Uncle Shen, who was already disappointed in Shinji, now completely gave up on him. Even Aunt Shen had no choice but to abandon her own son. Fortunately, the mistress of the illegitimate child had died early, at worst. They could treat him as their own son and put effort into building a good relationship with him. It wasn't too late. Lin Suisui was already on the verge of madness. She had lost all face, and the title of shrew had become her reputation. She wanted a divorce. But the Shen family had no intention of letting her go. They believed that the ruin of one of their sons was entirely her fault. If she hadn't bewitched Shinji's heart, he and I would have been a perfect match. Given my feelings for Shinji, how could I have failed to save him in that accident? At worst, I would have been the one with the broken leg, and Shinji could have married me. The Shen family was more than happy to take advantage of such a reputation-boosting opportunity. Their calculations were clever. But they drained the last shred of sympathy I had for them. 6 months later, Shinji committed suicide. Before he died, he took Lin Suisui with him. I heard that Lin Suisui had gotten in touch with Zhou Hao and secretly introduced Shinji to an old man with peculiar tastes. After that, Shinji completely lost his mind when he woke up. He cried, saying he knew he was wrong. That he had been blinded by obsession, and then cursed Lin Suisui, wishing her a miserable death. In the end, delirious, he muttered that he would change time again. That he would firmly choose Jianghe. He hired someone to sneak into his own home and quietly replace Lin Suisui's usual health supplements with sleeping pills. While she was unconscious, he set the house on fire, burning himself along with her. After Shinji died, I received a letter. It was from him. I guessed it was nothing more than some meaningless confession. I didn't even bother to open the envelope, I just threw it straight into the trash. A second chance? Not possible. Heaven won't give the wicked another opportunity. Even if it did, no matter how many times it repeated, I would never waver for him again. I have a clear goal in life. I will only become a better version of myself.